Hello everyone, it's Dio from Firm But Fair Gaming, bringing you another Diablo 3 video. Today we are bringing you a build for Season 24. For the Crusader, we will be covering the Aegis of Valor build. It is one of the top tier pushing builds for solo Crusader. It is up there on par with the Legacy of Dreams build. A little bit less popular as there are more people rocking the LOD build, but it's still viable. There have been 150 clears, and it is still a fun build to do. So let's jump into it. I'll take you right through it. Let's go. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to show you some gameplay footage down on the bottom left, just to show you what it looks like as I talk about it. So I went through a 120 earlier today. I don't have any augments in my gear. It's pretty fun to go through. I was able to time it even though I had one of the worst bosses for Valor Crusader, Versailles. I doubt I said that correctly. The guy that basically goes underneath the ground, teleports, and shoots lightning and stuff like that. He's hard for a Valor Crusader because you need to hit him with Fissure in order to generate Wrath, in order for you to keep casting Heaven's Fury. But anyways, that's enough about that. Let's get into the build here. So first we're just going to cover the items. So of course we are using the Valor set. We are going to be using the Ring of Royal Grandeur, so we only need to wear 5 pieces. So the pieces that we get rid of are either the boots or the pants, and then we are going to be wearing Captain Crimson waders, or the Captain Crimson set, for the additional cooldown reduction and the resource cost reduction. And of course that transfers into both damage dealt increase as well as a damage reduction because we're using the Ring of Royal Grandeur in our cube. So we choose those 2 items because that completes the 3-piece set. So of course the other piece is going to be the belt. We are going to be using Traveler's Pledge with the Compass Rose. So of course this is while we're moving we get a buff that increases. So down here you can see I get this stacking buff. It is our damage reduction, and then when we're standing still we get damage increase. There are variations that you can use on the ring. For beginners, as you're getting used to it, I like to use the Obsidian Ring of Zodiac because it helps you, as you go through attacking, you get to be in Akrats a lot more often, which makes you more survivable. The alternative to that is you can use a Convention of Elements, which is for more damage. So of course when we're in our Holy Cycle, which I'll get into when we go through the skills and spells. So Heaven's Fury does holy damage, so then when we be in our Holy Cycle we do massive amounts of damage. There is another alternative if you still feel you're a little bit squishy and having trouble. You could try Unity. The issue with that is you won't be in Akrats as often, but it is a alternative as you're getting used to the build. So there is those options. Where do I want to go from here? Okay, for the shield, we are going to be using Ivory Tower. Is the ideal shield that you would like to wear because it has the block chance, the 11% there. You can also get block chance on Shield of Fury, but Ivory Tower is a little bit more likely to have it on it. So basically we want to either have Ivory Tower for block because blocks release Forward of Fires of Heaven, which is our main damage dealer. And then Shield of Fury, which each time an enemy takes damage from Heaven's Fury, it stacks up to 30%. And they take up to 30% more damage and it stacks 10 times. So at max, if you had like a primal one, for example, they could take up to 300% damage once you get the 10 stacks on them. And then for our weapon, we want to either have those 2 shields on our ethereal weapon, or we need Fate of the Fell, which Heaven Fury gains 2 additional rays and has its damage increased by up to 500%. Ideally, you would want that to be in the cube because it's 500% is hard. The variation here is between 375 and 500. So if you had it in the cube, you automatically get the 500%. For me in particular, I haven't got that. So, or actually, no, I was able to get that. Never mind, my mistake. My cube. Oh, sorry, I was right. I haven't been able. Sorry, I do have it in the cube, which is ideal because I have my shield, one of my shields, I have Shield of Fury on my weapon. I don't have the correct weapon, so I have Callum's Will. I should have been, or I'm trying to find the Redeemer. And so basically the difference between these 2 ethereal weapons is that in the middle here, I wish my pointer would go in the middle, but in the middle on the Redeemer, you can see where you have plus up percent damage to undead and demons. So that is pretty handy when we're going through the risk, because that is going to be like 90% of the mobs that we're going to encounter. So you're going to be doing extra damage to them. And also consecutive hits to enemies increase attack speed up to 30%, so we're going to be hitting much faster, which is also what we want, as opposed to Calum's Will, where we get to reduce the cooldown on Steed Charge, which we're not even using in this build. So ideally, I'm looking for a Redeemer. I just haven't found one yet, so I just wanted to highlight that for you guys. Additionally, what we need, or what we're going to look for in our cube. So in our cube, if I just run down here just to show you guys. So at the moment I have Beta the Fel, and I was rocking a Leorix. I was just testing that out. That also helped me stay in accurates longer with the combination of Obsidian. And then we're using Ring of Royal Grandeur. Alternatively, for the armor, we can use Aquila Cuirass. So when we're above 90% resource, we get 50% damage reduction. Or we can even rock the Stone Gauntlets, which basically as we get hit, we get more armor and whatnot. But we do run the risk of becoming immobilized, but that doesn't apply to us if we are always in accurate. So we're going to be rocking high cooldown on this build. So those are the various options. And then of course for the weapon, depending on which one you're missing, so depending on what's on your ethereal or which shield you're rocking, you want to use either Fate of the Fel, Shield of Fury, or Ivory Tower. One of those three will be in your weapon slot. The only other thing that I want to cover is for our gems. There are a few different options. So I'm rocking Bane of the Trapped, Stricken. We 100% need Stricken and Bane of the Trapped. I'm also running Esoterics just for for more survivability. The alternative is that you could drop Esoterics if you really wanted to, and you could run Gogok. Just for the extra cooldown reduction. That's another variation. The way I have my build outlined here with the Obsidian and the Esoterics is one of the easiest ones to get more familiar with the build, which is why I'm in it, just to show and illustrate. When you get up higher and you have the extra Paragon, like I only have 1800 Paragon, which is a decent amount, but really not a lot for pushing the high-end rifts like the 135 pluses. You'll be probably more like 2500 or higher, and so I'm just showing the introductory build here. So I'm using Obsidian with the Trapped, Esoterics, and then Stricken. As the higher you get, you'll probably lose the Obsidian because you'll need to deal more damage and pick up the COE. So that covers the build. So now we're just going to go into the skills. Okay, for the skills, so of course we're going to be using Heaven's Fury. The rune that we're using is Fires of Heaven. So basically we're going to call down a fierce ray of holy power that deals massive amounts of damage, and the Fires of Heaven basically makes it a focused beam. So that's going to be our main damage dealer. We're using Fists of the Heavens with Fissure. So Fists of the Heavens drops little pillars of lightning, and basically as they hit mobs, it gives you more wrath, and Fissure adds basically it connects the fissures. Like if it pulsates towards them, see that beam between, and that's kind of what you want to do. So when you're splashing it around between enemies, you want to get that all connecting because that'll help you generate wrath faster. For defensive, so we're using the Judgment with Debilitate. So basically we're passing Judgment on all enemies, and we are regularly using this for the damage reduction, so to make enemies deal 40% less damage. Alternatively, you could also use the Shield Glare with Divine Verdict, so where blinded enemies take more damage. That's an alternative to that ability. We're using Law of Valor, so we're granting ourselves increased attack speed. And we're using Unstoppable Force, which reduces the cost of Wrath while we're in there, just so that when we pop that and we're spamming Heaven's Fury, we can get more shots out before we're out of Wrath. We're using Iron Skin, so this basically is a defensive, so we absorb 50% of all incoming damage for 4 seconds. And we're using Flash, which increases our movement speed while it's procced, and we can move unhindered through enemies. So this is basically how we're getting through the map quickly because we don't have Steed Charge. And of course, lastly, we're using Akarat's Champion with Prophet. So this is our big damage dealing ability, as well as we take less damage because we gain armor while it's active. So for our skills passive, we're using Fervor. So this basically is because we're going to be using a one-hander, it increases our attack speed and reduces our cooldown. We're also using Long Arm of the Laws so that our laws last for longer. We're using Hold Our Ground, which basically we can't dodge, but we can block. And this is vital because we're using Ivory Tower, and every time we block, we shoot off Heaven's Fury. So we want this. And then, of course, we're using Finery to gain additional strength. You can swap out if you find yourself a little bit squishy. We could swap out Long Arm of the Law for Indestructible for that second life or third life because we're getting their second life from our follower. But that does come at a cost of losing attack speed as well as our resource costs would go up. So these are the ideal ones. Basically, if your weapon happens to get one of those, which I did gain Long Arm of the Law, so this is my mistake. I shouldn't have Long Arm of the Law here. So I could pick up like Holy Cause here, or if I wanted to, I could pick up Indestructible. So in hindsight, I should have had Holy Cause on here just for us to deal more damage, as well as we heal ourselves every time we deal holy damage. For the stats that we're looking for on our items, so on our helmet, because we can't get any Heaven's Fury on here, we want crit. For our neck, which I don't have, ideally I would have a whole an elemental on here, so I would be trying to get 20% holy on here. I haven't got one yet, so this is the best I got at the moment. On our shoulders, we can roll Heaven's Fury on here, so I'm using Resist All with Heaven's Fury. If you get those by default on it, you could roll the Resist All or the Vitality off and do cooldown reduction because we do want lots of cooldown. For the chest, this is where we can roll on our other Heaven's Fury, so we want that. For the gloves, ideally we would want critical hit chance, critical hit damage, cooldown reduction, and then attack speed if we could get the quad. Here, I noticed I was a little bit lacking on the cooldown, so I've rolled cooldown instead of critical hit damage. But ideally, we want critical chance, critical hit damage, and cooldown, in my opinion. You can roll attack speed over the cooldown if you want, but I personally feel cooldown is better because we get the bonus damage from rocking Captain Crimson's, as well as it helps us get into Akrats quicker. For the bracers, we want holy damage plus max of critical hit chance, and we want a good unique modifier. So I actually lucked out here where I got 391. So again, we want the holy and the critical hit chance. For the belt, it's a defensive item, so we ideally want strength, vitality, resist all, armor. For the ring, depending on what ring you have, obviously here I have obsidian, so I don't have any choice. It's the default thing, so we'd roll off the resource cost onto the gem socket and then equip it as is. For COE, when I'm using it, I'm rocking critical hit damage, critical hit chance, and cooldown. And then on my compass rose, I haven't found a good one yet, but I would want strength, critical hit chance, critical hit damage, or actually ideally, and then even cooldown reduction if possible, if I could get something like that. And then on the legs, another survivability item, so we're just going with that. So of course we want strength, vitality, resist all. And of course the gems we're rocking are the resist all gems because by default we're a strength class, we're going to get lots of armor. So we need this just to help us because we are weak to the magic damage. For the shield, I'm rocking critical hit chance, block, and I got reduced damage from release, which I thought was kind of cool. So that works there. Or you could also rock cooldown reduction on it. For the boots, it's a defensive item, so I would ideally have got a resist all here. I haven't got it. So this is just the best pair that I've got so far. I actually made like 40 pairs of boots and this was the best I got. So I just said it'll have to do. And for the weapon, we don't have much of a choice, but again, ideally we're looking for the Redeemer. So that covers all the stats that we would like to have. One last thing I wanted to cover before I forget is the follower. The follower, what we want to have on our follower is we want to have an Oculus ring so we can proc those lovely circles. They want to be wearing a Flavor of Time. We want them to be wearing the Nemesis bracers so we can proc that elite out of the pylons. And then if you are using Unity for extra survivability when you are a little bit lower level or getting used to it, make sure your follower is wearing it. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. So before I sign off, I just wanted to share a little experience I had with you guys. So here in the rift I was doing, you finally spawn the Guardian, and then you're like, where is he? Pull up the map and he's in a place you haven't explored to yet. So this was actually quite annoying for me, and we've all been there. I got 2.5 minutes maybe left in the rift to try to complete it, and you gotta go chase him down and just look at this route that we gotta take to even get to it. And then when you finally get to him, you find out it's one of the bosses that you absolutely hate. So we'll just watch this a little bit just in case people are curious. So as I said earlier in the video, this is one of the more painful ones to fight because you can run a wrath. So see there, I'm already out of wrath because I didn't do a good enough job with placing my fissures. So you actually need to do like a triangle around him. So I'm getting a little bit better here, spawning my fissures to get that chain lightning to get more wrath. I can remember when I was first learning this, I was in a 4-man group and I just couldn't get wrath to save my life. So it took some practice, but he is one of the more challenging ones. So basically you kind of want to do a triangle around him and make him in the middle so that you can get the wrath as quickly as possible. Because a Valor Satyr without Wrath is just absolutely worthless because you just stand there and all you're going to do is die. You need to be able to attack because that regens your life, as well as you need to keep your stricken stacks up because the power is in the frequency in which you hit. Anyway, so as always, if you have any questions or comments, please let us know below. If there's any other videos that you would like to see for us to create, we love making these videos for these guys. Let us know below as well. And always, we appreciate any likes and subscribes. And of course, you can find us on Twitch. Good luck, everybody.